So what he's saying is that unless you go through this artistic conversion in looking at your own desire and admitting that you're following a model, then you can't actually tell the truth in a story. Because it's not true that we're isolated beings. We're socially dependent on each other.
Yeah.
And it can lead down into hell, basically.
Everybody still with us? Wow, this is one of our deeper episodes. This is incredible.
You think?
BeatiDudes!
Oh yeah, BeatiDudes Nation. Welcome to the movement that is really sweeping across the world right now. We are so proud to be back here in season 5 of the BeatiDudes. This is a show for Christian men that are really just trying to figure it out. Trying to figure it out at tiny tables, facing the same direction with dudes that we enjoy hanging out with, and some that we're just getting to know, which is what's going to happen today. But there's a couple dudes that I'm starting to know a little bit better these days. To my left is Paul Kolker.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy. I feel like we're getting to know each other.
Indeed, sir.
I think this is episode like 213 or something crazy like that.
And y'all haven't gotten tired of me yet, so this is great.
You know, I think I've gotten dumber and less funny by being around you, but I enjoy you.
Thank you.
I think it's just like a comparison. I don't think you've actually changed.
Oh, you know what? We're going to talk about comparison on this show today, so this is perfect.
Ooh.
And I'll give a little teaser to our guest who knows a lot about this. I bought his childhood home. What does that tell you about comparison?
You bought my childhood?
No,
home?
He bought my
No, I'll go deep into that.
Yeah,
Psychology. So.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then to his left is Nick.
That's me.
Yeah. Hey, Nick. How are you?
Yo, I feel like I do know you better.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
It's getting there.
If anybody's ever watched this show before or all 200 plus episodes, we're starting to like open up a little here. I think I might become a little bit vulnerable now.
Yeah, we've broken the ice.
Just take off that filter, Jeff.
The shirt.
No.
Yes, that is filtering your chest from the rest of the world. That's good.
Jeff, please leave your shirt on. Jeff, no, leave your shirt on.
Haha. If you're watching on YouTube, the only muscle I've moved is my nostrils when I flared them.
Out of frustration.
I will flare them at you, Paul. Okay, hey, this show is awesome, guys. It's really awesome. You want to know why? Because we get even inbound messages for years now, but from people that as soon as we figure out who they are, I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna make this work. Like we're on a filming bender right now, so to throw our guest right in the middle of this would seem a little bit crazy because we've been in the studio a lot lately. Mm-hmm. But when we knew who the guest was and that he was going to be coming through town, the answer was, yeah.
When the timing's the timing.
Yeah. It's the timing.
I've said that for a long time. No, somebody even more profound. Maybe Socrates.
Socrates. Socrates.
Gandhi.
Okay, Gandhi. When the timing's the timing. It's the time.
It's the time.
Thank you, whoever you are. Okay, welcome to the show originally from Chicagoland, now living in California. Sam Sorich land.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Sorich.
Yeah.
Buddy, that sounds like the name of a film producer.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is this a stage name or something you had to do to get into the Screen Guild or something?
It's Croatian.
Oh, yeah, the same thing.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's a lot of Croatians. They're taking over the NBA, but that's about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Can you pronounce every one of the NBA players' names?
No.
Okay, so you're not you weren't born in Croatia?
No, but I was a big fan of like Tony Kukoc.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the OG, right?
Yeah. I think it was probably the first
Croatian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I liked Kukoc, and if you tried to get me to name all the current ones, I would probably say Kukoc Jr.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you grow up in a big family?
Yeah, I'm one of 11.
What?
Whoa.
No joke.
Yeah.
What? Gosh, see, I just
Just threw it out there.
What was the tell?
Because you got to populate the land when you move over here.
Yeah.
No tell. Where do you fall in that?
I'm
rank?
the oldest boy,
boy.
third. So 2 girls, me, another girl, and 7 brothers.
Wow.
Yeah, shout out to the Sorich bros.
Oh my goodness.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be nice to you.
That's a basketball team with a bench.
They're all soccer players.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a soccer team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a soccer team.
11 players.
What? And were you born in Chicago area?
I was actually born in La Mesa, California, which is funny because now I live
round trip.
right out. Yeah, it's come full circle.
Your roots calling you back.
Exactly. But so my mom was from Mexico, and she met my dad when he was in the Navy there, and they didn't speak each other's language
Whoa.
when they met.
Wow.
And then even another kind of repetition is that's when I met my wife 10 years ago now. She didn't speak English. I didn't speak Spanish. We knew it could work. We got married within 8 months. And 2
But
kids, rest is history.
The language of love
Exactly.
supersedes
You
all.
don't-
So your
really
parents
need to
invented
talk.
Duolingo. That's so impressive.
Exactly, yeah. And I never learned Spanish, so I'm like a Mexicant, half Croatian.
Did you sit there and be like, I really like you, but I'm not going to even try. You're going to learn English.
That's the arrogance of an American, truly.
That's basically what happened because I should know it. Like, there's a lot of
you
shame
should.
here.
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué no entiendo?
Do you know any other
Amazing.
languages besides English?
No, just that.
No
Yeah.
Croatian?
He knows the language of storytelling, Jeff. He
That's
does
right.
film.
Okay,
Film.
here's so I know one phrase in Croatia.
Can we learn it?
Yes, it's ja sam sam.
Ja sam sam.
So when I went to Croatia to kind of find my roots out there. I just like got on a boat and like had my passport, and I started asking people, "Do you have Sorich as your last name?" And they're like, "No." And then I go to the next house, and then they were like, finally, some guy came out and he showed me a picture of my grandpa.
You did door-to-door sales.
Door to door asking for
in Croatia.
Yep.
This is awesome.
What?
And I found him, and then I stayed with them. And again, I didn't speak the language. Stayed with them for 2 weeks. They did my laundry.
What?
Like,
Wait. If you didn't speak the language, how did you know he was your grandfather?
a picture. He had a picture of my grandpa and my grandma. Like, when
But
they
you
were
knew who they were.
I knew who they were.
you
'cause
knew.
they were-
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
yeah.
I
Sorry.
didn't say this is
Well,
your
also-
grandfather.
It wasn't like a Star Wars
His parents
moment.
also invented Google Translate.
The door-to-door 23andMe. That's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was fun. But anyway, so I learned the phrase "Ja Sam Sam," which means it's basically "I am Sam," so my name. So I am Sam, but also I am alone. So it was like it hit extra like existential,
wow.
and I'm like I'm alone.
Yeah,
But I'm
Sam
really
Nick. Sam.
I am alone, and I am Sam. So it was like it was definitely what I needed at the time because I was like, anyway, we'll get
I
into
am
that.
alone. Do my laundry. Yes. I am Sam.
I am your grandfather.
Do you want your whites separated from your colors?
Cold cycle's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
Ja sam sam.
Where are you guys from? Like, what's your ethnic background?
The country Texas.
German.
Okay.
German, Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He really is.
I'm German and Irish, and I actually traced this back at one point. Couldn't find the exact year, but it was like my great grandparents came over in like around 1858 to like 1870, somewhere in there. But I did the Ancestry.com. I actually bought a subscription for a little bit and traced it back, and I found names that I knew from hearing from my grandfather.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this makes sense. And I saw the actual, whatever it was, the papers that they signed on the way in and all that. So
Wild.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
I wasn't even born in Texas. I'm just trying to like,
You're commandeering it.
I'm rewriting history. That's what I'm doing. No, it's German for sure, or Schiefelbein. And then a lot of that just whatever, Irish, Italian. I have a Galliano, who's one of my grandparents, Pasquale, great grandparents. So
You're a mutt.
I'm a mutt and I love it. And that allows me to just claim Texas because I act Texan.
That's for sure.
Brazen,
True.
Big timing people,
still friendly.
but like aggressively so.
True. All true. All true.
Howdy and welcome. Do you, you've been in Texas before this?
Yeah. So I know the reason we got connected because I was friends with D'Ambrosio, who's a friend of ours.
You know, we've had both kids and the dad on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
They're
of
great,
them.
great.
We're crushing it.
So, but the reason I bring that up is because that was the reason that I came to Texas for the first time. It's a past. So, but I'll jump in right there, which
Please.
is like, I was living out of a van for a little bit, and so I was van lifing and just drove south, met up with the D'Ambrosios, and it was actually the first like week that they met with Edmund Mitchell to start the Catholic Creative. So it was like right around that time where kind of the stars aligned, and then a lot of different things sparked from there. At least in my life. So.
For all of us.
Yeah.
Every human that's ever graced 5'11" East John Carpenter comes.
I was just working. I wasn't part of that. I was just.
But it's impacted every part of your world.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. I mean, that's where Jeff and I met, was at the Catholic Creative Summit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had known. I don't even
It
want to say
comes
this.
up all the time.
Wait, go ahead, Paul.
Good. Yeah.
I had known of him as the carpool creator guy from A&M, because I also
Not the
went to
concept of carpool, a safe ride program called carpool. The concept of carpooling somebody invented before I was born.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
Yes. Although you tried to claim that for a while.
The student-run organization at A&M. It's a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was basically
I trust
Uber
you.
before Uber existed, but for people who were drinking too much, and he was trying to make sure they got home safe.
That's nice.
Safe ride
you.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Free
okay.
free of charge for all students
Nice.
at A&M.
But so we were at that Catholic Creative Summit. We think it was 2018. I've looked this up 10 times. I think it was 2018.
Yeah.
And in that one audience, I bet of the males that were in that audience, I bet 60% of them have been guests on our show, and it was hundreds of people.
Yeah, it was a big conference.
Yeah, but it's like I knew a couple people going into that, not extremely well, and now all of them are very embedded parts of our lives. You're an embedded part of our life, if you like it or not.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
We have friends who are in this building from Australia, or their companies from Australia, that stem back to that same talk because they had Australians there. Remember that? There was Australians at the Catholic Creative Summit.
Yeah.
No, I sat down with some of them at the lunches when we had those like group pairings or whatever that they did, where they were trying to get us to mix with other people from other parts of the world.
What's his name? He worked at Salt and Light. I think I invited him to the
You talking about an Australian?
Yeah.
Was it Joshua?
Joshua
Yep.
Lazzarini. He's one of my
So now Joshua works for
Yeah.
Harvest Journeys.
Okay,
Harvest
yeah.
Journeys set up their U.S. headquarters
Yeah.
on this floor. Where I
He's
was
one of
giving
my
you a tour.
favorite people.
He's incredible.
He's so cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And he also, I got connected to him through One Plate, which was Therese Nichols from Australia was running a nonprofit called One Plate, like they're feeding the hungry. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's very cool.
Oh yeah. They
Someone's
would
got
just
to do a history of all this and do the genealogy and the
If somebody would just
23andMe.
go back and watch all of the Beatitudes and give it 5 stars, they could probably figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so.
Probably so. Share,
You
like,
know-
and subscribe.
They could also enroll the
Smash
help
the
of the scholars at Wyoming Catholic College. Great at everything. Okay. back
Wait
to
a
you.
second. I want to go back to you're one of 11 kids. We just like, oh yeah, totally. No one will roll with that. Like, what is that like growing up experience, household? Like, yeah.
It was awesome. I always felt like I had to be a role model. So like, cause I was the oldest boy
Of the boys, yeah.
and like I remember one time I got in trouble, like probably in like 3rd grade, and I had sent to the principal's office, and I started crying, and I was like, I just want to be a role model. I just want to be a role model. And then the principal was like, didn't know what to do, and she like sent me away. And then as soon as I left the principal's office, I like went like this. I was like, I can get away with anything by crying.
That's right.
And
Amazing.
so it was also it was 2 realizations at once. It was like an actual desire to be a role model,
Yeah.
and then
I have powers.
I'm mischievous, and you shouldn't trust me.
Awesome.
But
That is great.
And so those two, they eventually need
I
to
was going to say,
reconcile.
so then how
Yeah.
did that, yeah, exactly. Take that forward through your career.
Well, I think I never really clicked onto the role model thing, other than it kept me away from kind of like the big
super
bad
bad,
things
yeah.
of drugs, sex, and alcohol kind of stuff. So I was pretty straight edge, and that was kind of part of my identity, and it made me like different, like because I also had this like artistic bent. Like I've always
Yeah.
been like I was always drawing since I was like before I can even remember. So I'd spent hours just like sketching and then like crumbling up the paper, throwing it away, and I did a lot of like cartoons and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
my artistic life was always there, and what do I want to say about that? Just I forget.
Well, that's fine.
No, yeah.
So I have a question, and it's going to kind of take us into something very important. What brought you to Dallas on this trip?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I'm promoting my new film, which is Things Hidden: The Life and Legacy of René Girard, and we just showed it at the University of Dallas.
documentary.
It's a documentary about a French thinker that is kind of not really known, but he's also one of the most important thinkers in the last century.
Yeah.
So
I actually envy you for
Yeah.
making this film.
No joke.
And I desire to
Be just
make
like
a
it.
film just like it. Yeah.
It came at the right
and
time.
then kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it all leads to murder.
This is all a reference to René Girard, by the way. I'm not actually threatening our guest.
And then Sam. Yeah.
Keep going.
And yeah, so to promote that, basically, like I just think it's a really important. He's a really important thinker, and I think like podcasts like this to get him well known in like the Catholic sphere, especially talking to young men and young people, is really important.
So did you show it last night at the University of Dallas?
Yep.
Awesome. What kind of reception did you get from showing it?
I think we've been having a pretty positive reception throughout. So we let it go on YouTube for free on Christmas, and just letting it have like a long tail and try to promote it from there. But yeah, I think it's a lot of positive.
So that's sort of
reaction
like
to
the monetization strategy, if you will, is like
is no
none. Yeah,
yeah.
Got it.
We have
Nothing.
a job for you here. Now that I know where your head's at.
I feel, so yeah, I was dude, I am still on West Coast time.
Don't worry about it. How are you gonna pay your bills to get back on this airplane and leave here today?
I thought you guys were covering it.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
no, that's in our rider.
This is
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
We do
should
have
have
a
read
pass
that.
through to the University of Dallas, so maybe that was it.
We also you're gonna leave here with a new pair of socks. So take that for what it's worth.
trade those.
Oh,
yeah, barter them.
Yeah, that guy started with a paperclip and ended up with a house.
That's
So
it.
starting with a pair of socks.
You can
yeah.
get to a plane
Two
ticket.
houses.
Yeah.
So, we got this. A mobile house.
So maybe I should say this: if people want to watch the film first, it's free on YouTube. Then
Yeah.
they can listen to this podcast and they can kind of get a commentary on that. Like,
How do we?
Yeah.
Oh, if people want to give money, how do you monetize
I don't want
this
your
thing? You
money.
don't- yeah, no.
I don't need your money.
No. Hold on. This is a moment.
I think he's actually doing something mimetic to me right now. I'm not sure what it is.
Wait, yeah. So back up. Who is René Girard?
There you
for
go.
those who don't know who
Paul, I
this
say
French
Girard.
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 René Girard.
That was very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But so who is this guy? I've read a little bit of his stuff, but I found him through some obscure like Twitter user that I follow who posts random books and stuff that he's reading. And
Yeah.
so how did you figure out who this guy
Yeah.
was and who is he in the
Okay.
first place?
Great. Yeah. So it's a long answer because basically this documentary is like an answer to the first half of my life, if that makes sense. So basically, so I was raised in this big Catholic family, but it was never really integrated. So I went to Catholic school but I was more on the pursuit of like art, theater, acting. I got into film very early on with one of my best friends who lived down the street. And so the goal was always art. It was always expression or something like that.
Yeah.
And like digging into very deep parts of the soul, even as like a young kid.
Yeah.
So like I'd go into the woods, and like take off all my clothes and be one with nature when I'm just like in high school.
Yeah.
And I knew that no one else was doing this. I knew like when everyone was inside, when it's raining, you go outside. So inside me was like this need
Wow.
to be contrarian, all this stuff. But once you get into Girard, you realize like all this unconscious activity that you're doing as a kid is probably more programmed than you think. And so even aspects of rebellion or whatever in youth are already built into our society. So and so like
Yeah, so you're saying it's not really rebellion per se.
it's a script. Like
yeah.
what are artistic people supposed to act like? They're supposed to be a little crazy. It's supposed to be a little weird.
Yeah.
Or like even if like I was an emo kid, so like had you cut your hair in a certain
Yeah.
way, you wore the tight pants and
Mostly
But-
wore black.
yeah, that's the gothic kids.
Oh, okay.
But if you're like punk rock, it's
I
like
see.
Blink 182. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, like we're all living these scripts, but we all think it's coming from our own identity, and we're trying to find our true selves. And
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like the high school archetypes.
exactly. Yeah,
the
yeah.
jock, the
Like, why-
cheerleader,
basically,
yeah.
why do those exist? It's not like this kind of like it's not just mapping out what are the high school archetypes and now we can avoid them. It's that why do they exist in the first place?
Stepping back, looking at the big picture.
Yeah, it's something anthropological, meaning like if we can answer this question of why are humans behaving this way, we can maybe get under the surface
Yeah.
of other things. So anyway, so like I continue
Cool.
on. I have this reconversion to my faith in high school, and so this trajectory I was on to do art school turned like this 180. I had this like a moment at a Kairos conference, And so like I started to take seriously my faith, but it was like a culture shock because that artistic trajectory and then the going to a seminary was too much to the system because I didn't really know about Catholic culture. I didn't know what were the memes and the lingo, the scripts.
Yeah.
So I couldn't play the part, and it felt disingenuous to myself. And in fact, like, and this is something that me and Danbro like actually like came together about because we were the only emo kids there, and so no one understood how you can have weird hair and also want to be a priest.
Yeah.
But the desire was actually real. Like I had a real experience of wanting to go to become a priest to serve the church, and so going into seminary, but also that's when kind of things kind of to unravel in terms of like my spiritual quest, and then also my like intellectual quest as well, because I didn't even read a book before going to college. I cheated my way through high school, like because I was so focused on art.
You just cried your way through.
Well, there's some of that.
I just want to be a role model.
I just want to be a role model, guys.
I don't think I haven't used that.
I can't.
Yeah.
This is not a tip for listeners out there who are under the age of 18.
Turn it off my 5th grade kid's school teacher at this point.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you resonate with that because that's a deep,
I told a college professor
Yeah.
that I needed a little space, and she just passed me.
Yeah.
Like it made no
It's easy.
sense.
Yeah. Life is easy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, cheating my way through high school, but then finally getting serious, and so like I wanted to be a priest, which meant that I couldn't date, I had to give my whole life to the priesthood. I had to give my life to the church, but this whole skeptical side to me was still on fire. Like I needed to know that if I was going to do this, I was going to throw all my skeptical attitude at the church and see what happened. And I felt like I just blazed through the culture, like meaning that when I was in seminary, no one really cared about those questions from a very hyper skeptical side because it was somehow threatening to them. And so I kind of like became an atheist within 3 years. So
Sure.
basically, if you start like from this skeptical attitude, you're going to end up an atheist. Like there's no other path without life experience, which I didn't have.
It's funny. I think I've heard a lot of the opposite of that, like the skeptic who comes in expecting to come out an atheist, and not because of life experience, but because of like the lived experience of somebody they read about. They end up at the opposite of that.
I think there's a difference, though, with what Sam is saying about it being a skeptical attitude versus, like, because, I mean, you're talking about skepticism as, like, almost a way of life, right, at that age.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, no, yeah, well, tell me the answer to this. Well, can you figure that out?
Yeah, can you prove it? Like
Yeah.
this high Cartesian certainty or whatever for everything.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to lead you anywhere. Like
Without the like follow through and like true like
desire
and mental sort of like inquisitiveness, I guess, or like the
openness,
the follow through, right? Like
prove it.
Yeah, like prove it.
I'm just
Well,
kidding,
prove it
that's
to
what-
yourself,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like do the work, read the things. Like,
yeah. I also thought this was like the early days of YouTube. Again, I hadn't read a book, so like my bar was very low. Like so the resources I wasn't getting them, and it took me a longer time to actually get a hold of good solid reasoning.
Sure.
But so basically it was like in the heyday of like atheistic debates of like the new atheism and stuff like that. And so I just bought into that as like those are serious critiques of the church that we need to have good answers to. I don't think the early days of YouTube we had a good answers to. I think Barron has talked about that and stuff like that.
Well, and they were at the time they were very persuasive rhetorically, right? Like they knew how to talk good and write good and all that.
But we should have had that too. Like, and we did. Like, there was no response. But I think after like, it's been like 15 years since that time. And I think YouTube is actually an awesome space for this type of discussion.
Yeah.
Not that that's the point of it, but like, if I had that when I was a kid, I think I would have hopefully found something a little more meaty. But at the same time, like my experience actually was so positive because it was using doubt to make sure that I was pursuing truth wherever it led me. And so I had this like liberation after I left seminary, that I was normal again. Like I could shed off maybe this first layer of religious zealousness or whatever it was, And but I was lost, and so I bought a one-way ticket to Europe, and started to read as much as I could, especially like people that I was not supposed to read in seminary, like Nietzsche, and just trying to ask alternative questions of like getting at this Christian thing, which I had a feeling was true, but I needed some good arguments.
Yeah.
And so
I actually think it's really good to read all the stuff you're not supposed to read.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that wasn't the culture in seminary.
Sure.
There was kind of this like, you had to like protect the babies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and seminary comes from the word for like greenhouse, right?
Yeah,
so
seed, yeah.
Yeah, so the whole idea is that you are supposed to protect the seeds to grow.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought I was going there to like
Grapple.
learn how to grapple. And you don't go to seminary to grapple with your faith. If you're going to grapple with your faith, do that beforehand.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't. I mean, there are ways to do it, but yeah, I mean, maybe not to the extent that you were wanting to at that time.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I'm not going to blame it on them too. Like partly, I had a lot of resentment after that time because it was psychologically traumatic. Like to want to be a priest, then to feel, then to like totally lose your faith.
Yeah.
So then I would just blame it on the seminary, blame it on the guys, blame it on the culture, and I've since gone deeper and understood like that time in your life is just tumultuous wherever you are.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, but I think all that earnest like searching for truth, like I needed something to catch me, and so I read Simone Weil and René Girard, and those two French thinkers kind of like they caught me in a way that was satisfying. With all my skeptical attitude, I couldn't, it was convincing.
Yeah, you're the expert here, so I don't want to say that I know something, but I've watched half of the documentary, and I can't wait to watch the other half. Like, you've introduced me to something that I knew nothing about before. The only times I'd ever heard the words mimetic desire was through the group at Catholic University of America that has been kind of pushing this, and I'm blanking on that dude's name all of a sudden.
Burgess.
Thank you, Luke. And then I know that Paul's jumped on that before when somebody brought it up on the show. But it wasn't until I was watching your documentary that you realized that René Girard helped us define the root of desire. Mm-hmm. Like that, what a concept. And that all desire can be explained and then built into a pattern. And to your point, it's a little bit programmatic. One comment, and then maybe a transition about Girard. If he's the guy who's come to the root of desire and can prove to you that your desires are predictable based on the people that are influencing you. First comment is, in your documentary, Bishop Robert Barron says that René Girard is the closest thing we have to the church fathers.
Yeah.
This is like the premier expert on all things Catholic Church is saying this.
Yeah.
If you heard that just one line, you have to watch this documentary. Like, that is not a small compliment.
Right. Yeah, he's huge, and more people should know about it.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you doing that pro bono. So,
but you can donate at
the BeatiDudes. Take a 10% cut. No, go ahead. What can we donate at?
No, I don't need your money. I don't want your money.
I love this dude. I want his money. So this is mimetic. But what's interesting is I made it halfway through, and that's about the point, maybe a little bit before the halfway point, where René Girard starts to have an experience on a train, a conversion experience. And if I'm not mistaken, he starts to run into this maybe problem in society where people are like, hold on, you've made this complete conversion to being all in, everybody knows you're Catholic, and you're going to talk about the root of desires as if we don't have free reign over desire. Like, we all want to claim that our desires are the makings of our own true and real free self. And then he's saying, nope, that's not how this works. And it can lead to death, and it can lead to war, and it leads to predictable fighting. But can you maybe reflect a little bit even on René Girard as a man of faith, in addition to the deep thinker that he is?
Yeah, like I think
mostly because I haven't watched the second half.
Exactly. I think it's that, like, what is this connection to religion? Like, what is the connection between desire and religion? And like for me, it like I want to go back a little bit because that was a great transition, and I'm just gonna slap it down. But no,
welcome to the
club. But I'll get back to it. Like, this is what's cool about Girard is that you can kind of get at it at different spaces. But like, so for me, I thought a knockdown argument against Christianity was the comparative religion argument, namely that all other ancient religions have the same story as Christianity. Why are you still a Christian?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that multiple different religions are all trying to grapple with the same mystery in some way, shape, or form isn't a proof against one of them being true. It's a proof that one of them must be true because they're all trying to approach and approximate the same thing. So they don't, it's like scientific theories in that sense, right?
So one of them must be true, but the one that comes last is the most true?
Not necessarily in temporal order, right? Because obviously other things have been invented recently.
Right.
And they're recombinations of all of that. But,
right.
But the idea being that, first of all, we can rule out the idea that just because other religions have similar ideas, that means, oh, they're either all true or all false. Right, because it's the same with scientific theories. You might have 3 or 4 scientists trying to grapple with how does a Higgs boson.
But what would be the truth statement of those? Like that there are dying and rising gods. Like so, there's basically like Osiris and Baldur and all these people have the same myth. Basically, that they die and they rise again, and the community comes to like some celebration of it. So if we're saying that some of those are true. Or saying that one of those is true, why would it be Christ versus Baldur? Or why? So basically, it's like
partly because a lot of those didn't actually claim that those were historical figures.
So that's where I watched a video the other day. What's our boy's name up in Virginia? Scott, the guy that I used to coach. Anyways, he reaches out and just I can't think of his name. Gary Scott sends me a video. He goes, "Best 5-minute video I've ever seen explaining Christianity." And it's a dude just sitting in the middle of an auditorium full of college students and. Look, this dude has a better memory than me, Paul, but it was actually a phenomenal answer. This guy's like, why Christianity? And first of all, he said, why did it happen when it happened? And also then, why do you believe it? And the guy goes, why did it happen when it happened? I don't know, but I'll tell you my theory real quick is that he said trade routes and written language. And he just said it was the perfect time for the greatest story to ever be told because it could be spread the fastest, at that moment. I was like, that's a pretty cool, that's my theory. He said, but why do I believe it? He said, the resurrection of a real human being that's historically known to be true, that everybody can say did live and nobody can say didn't rise. It's like this proof of everything that this crazy man said that everybody thought was so radical and different and didn't follow the pattern. And then for him to actually rise and nobody ever proving that he didn't, is that the resurrection happened, and if it didn't, then this is all the biggest,
Well, people died and were put
together.
The
500 people that is, exactly.
And that never stopped, right?
Yeah.
70 last week.
Why would you put yourself through an upside down crucifixion?
But all that to say,
it's false.
You tell me who influenced my decisions on that one.
It was René Girard.
It was Gary Scott.
Yeah. Basically, it's like I guess I don't find that as convincing, or at least it's not as forcing. It's either a wash, like rhetorically, it's just like point here, and then the debate continues.
Well, what's a scientific theory?
What do you mean?
Like in general,
yeah.
When somebody's trying, there's something that they know is happening, and then you have multiple scientists create theories around why it is, and then they're trying to test those theories, right? And make them
what makes the most sense out of the data.
But in the moment, now, okay, this is the difference between also a finite mystery and an infinite mystery, right? So the finite mystery is the one that we can actually explore scientifically, right? So even amongst people at a finite level, we might have competing theories on what's the thing that we're trying to deal with, right? But that doesn't mean that that all of them are true, none of them are true. They might have similar threads, right? But they're all trying to approach the same thing. And I'm not saying that means universalism or whatever. So somebody in the comments is probably going to say, "Oh, you guys are universalists." But I'm just saying that when you're grappling with a mystery that is infinite, you are going to have similarities show up in the different religions that are trying to approach it.
But that's already assuming Christianity is true, because you're already claiming that it's an infinite mystery, versus saying a scientific theory would just say that it's just a copycat religion. Like, to me, it's a simpler explanation to say that because it came later, it was simply a borrowing in culture, because we see that all the time. Like, we see other cultures assimilate other cultures because they like what they have, like, and so they take the best ideas and they move it forward, or they innovate on them. So to me, it's a better
all this. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that's a problem, and the problem that Christians don't have a satisfying answer for it. I mean, I'm saying we're grappling with it. But that's enough to lead you out of the church. It's enough to say Christianity is a wash, and I can choose between. That it's just not. It's not a strong enough argument.
Is there a and then after that, or is that the closing argument?
That go watch the film. No.
Hi, it's Paul Kolker from the BeatiDudes here, and I just wanted to share with you guys that I also, outside of the show, perform improv comedy on a regular basis with a group called Divine Comedy. So what we do is we come up with everything on the spot, so whether you're looking for faith-filled, fun, family-friendly comedy for your youth night, or whether you're looking for clean comedy for your corporate event, Divine Comedy can perform for your group and even get you in on the action. So if you'd like to hire us to come out and perform for your next event, check out DivineComedyImprov.com. Divine Comedy, an inferno of fun.
Nick, when it comes to investing, I just feel like money and morality don't always line up. What's the answer?
Often that's the case, but our friends at Aquinas Wealth Advisors have a really great solution. It's called the Faith and Finance Score. You go on their website and you put in your info. They tell you where you're invested and where it doesn't actually line up with where you want to be.
So you mean I don't just have to funnel money towards a retirement fund where I don't know what it's investing in?
That's right, you don't. And you don't even have to give up or sacrifice returns. You can get both.
So just get on the computer, bing, and I type in the website.
AquinasWealth.com. It takes longer to type than it does to get your faith and finance score.
Thanks, guys. Great job, Nick.
You betcha.
You know what I think is hard about starting a business? Healthcare, for crying out loud. It's expensive. It's intimidating. At the end of the day, you're probably paying for stuff you don't even agree with. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
I knew you could. So what we did is we started working with Solidarity Health Share. Totally different. These folks are aligned with us morally and ethically. And even the structure from a cost perspective works for us as we're launching businesses, as we're growing our families. And I don't know if you know this, but a couple times my kids went to the hospital in the last 2 years.
They sure have.
Yours? But Solidarity has walked with us through all of it, including some crazy stuff for Benny Pro, my little boy. So all of this to say, I would encourage anybody out there thinking about their own business, their own needs, check out Solidarity Health Share for a better alternative to regular healthcare. So check out learnmore.solidarityhealthshare.org/Beatitudes.
No, but I think there's also what theory actually encapsulates the human condition.
Well, what has Christianity said? Like, what has our great tradition said about the comparative religions? Why don't we have an answer to this? Why don't we have a good one?
What would René Girard say?
But I just want to rest here for a second. It's like we just assume that someone else has to answer for it. Like that someone else, like we are Christians, we believe it.
We can
but we don't
do
have
that.
A good
Just know that dead air is bad for ratings. So let's just rest
I don't
in it
want
for
your
a
money.
minute.
I think I
don't
pulled
want
out
subscribers. I don't care about your ratings. This is my show.
I pulled out the headphone, but
Is it? No, it's out of your thing
okay.
up top.
No, I think
thanks.
I think it's a perfectly fair question.
yeah.
Right? Like I'm not trying to dismiss or deny the question.
Yeah, do you see why someone would basically, like, I'm just trying to say that in my story,
Yeah.
that one hit the most.
Yeah.
And I still don't find it satisfactory. But if you look at the tradition, like Saint Justin Martyr would give the explanation because he's working with the pagan texts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's working with apology for
seeds of
Christianity.
truth.
Yeah, he's basically saying the devil deceived us. Satan made the other religions look like Christianity. So when Christianity came, we would think that the other religion, that it's just a copycat religion. That's hilarious.
No, well, but the way I've heard it put is that religion, just as lowercase r, right? Just
Yeah.
religion as a practice is man's search for God, and then Christianity is God's search for man.
Yeah, these are nice, like, formulas for what, like, from a Christian perspective.
Well, no, but I mean, I think you can even say, like, you can lay out the evidence as to why.
But you have
those
to
two
assume a
statements are
lot of
true.
things. You have to assume God exists.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, right? Because like you can.
Well,
do
if you're saying God search for man, you're already assuming that God
but
exists.
philosophically, right? You can go to a first cause, and that's pretty easy.
Yeah,
to do.
as a hypothetical, that's fine. Yeah, I think I don't think it's convincing because you're already assuming something.
Well, no, and this gets to the difference between just reason and faith in the sense that faith is the leap that reason has to take.
Yeah.
Kind of from a heart standpoint.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
there's
not,
a bigger gap when the reasons are not as forcing. What I mean is, like, if there isn't that connection. What
yeah, but
what
it's-
I get out of René Girard is
Yeah.
that he closes the gap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. How
yeah.
so?
Okay. So
Yeah, I hope you get there, or else this show is pretty like YouTube 2004.
Kind of bleak.
I just want to rest here
love
because
it,
it's a
yeah.
problem. Like we just
Sure.
assume that because we're Christian, we can dominate the space and say we're reasonable. And if you can't move the needle on this debate, like
So is every Christian then called to be an apologist that can speak on the very depths of all anthropology?
what if
all
it was
philosophy?
available? What if that knowledge was available? What if we're at a point in history where it becomes available?
What if your temperament for my wife isn't that she's going to go around doing this, but she still is Christian? Is she not Christian if she's not going to go get into this debate? Or if I'm not as smart as Paul because I didn't go to seminary, if I'm using my gifts for the greater good and I believe in God, am I less of a Christian?
I think even non-believers can have Christianity. Like, okay, what I mean
That's
is
not
like,
true.
I think it is. Like, because
No, being a good guy or having a good outcome is a result of, not a purpose for.
we got to break down a bunch of different terminology here.
This
But
is about to be the most boring show I've ever heard, but keep going. Yeah,
I kind of disagree.
he thinks it's interesting.
good.
No, we're going to have people lighting us up in the comments on this. I can't wait.
What do you guys think?
Yeah. Tell us. Hit us up in the comments. Smash that like button.
We're just going to rest in this until
Why are you
comment.
a Christian? Why do you believe?
Wow. And then the dead
We'll
silence.
just sit
there.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we just
I mean, look, to think that every one of us is supposed to be able to do something at the depth of being able to debate a very smart atheist or somebody who sees the commonality in all religions, I think is asinine.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I'm saying in my journey,
Your journey.
yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but you said that you should be able to, and that's a proclamation to the other person. I'm saying you should be able to if you want to.
I think it should
I'm allowed
grate.
to have
I
faith without having to have what you're going
That's
through.
true, but it should grate on our notions of what's
You
believable.
shouldn't tell me what it should do to me. You should tell me what it does to you.
Yeah, we're getting normative.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so are you saying that I shouldn't do what?
You should do what
Are
you
you
should
making
do.
a normative claim? Okay.
No, but I'm dead serious about this. You don't get to determine what I should be doing in my own faith journey. You can determine what you should be doing in your own faith journey.
Yeah.
But the way you're saying it is you should be graded by this. Maybe I shouldn't because maybe that's not the world I'm living in.
You're saying
should be.
you were bothered by the gap.
You can say I in that sentence.
I'd like to extend it a little bit, not by making as strong as what you're saying, because obviously we agree on this.
But you're so nitpicky on words that I'm not going to let you get away with saying that I should if you should.
But that's exactly what you're saying to me.
No.
You're saying I
said it.
shouldn't.
Because you said it, then you should say it about myself. Like if I say this is going to be hard for you, maybe it's actually just because it's going to be hard for me. So I'm talking about myself, not you.
Okay, so I get what you're saying.
Do you?
I do.
I think so.
Yeah. So when I say that it should be hard for you, I'm meaning that as something that pumps your intuitions, as a thought experiment, as an invitation to think bigger, like that any big ideas can do. At first, they make you uneasy and they make you react in a way that I don't want to leave the bounds of my worldview or whatever. But I think that happens to us all the time in society, and we have to choose a lane. So I think it's happening all the time, and sometimes it breaks, sometimes our worldviews break, and sometimes they stay closed, and that's just the human condition. That's what it means to be living with each other. I think this is good. This is good debate. This is good. Fruitful.
I think what I hear is like you feel this like challenge to it, and Jeff, you're arguing like, well, maybe you, Sam, feel challenged by it, but maybe I, Jeff, don't. And I think
and if the you is the general population that should, and they don't, what does that classify them as in their walk as a human?
correct.
Not
Yeah.
interested.
Well, it doesn't. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's different. Everyone has a different personality. Like, and so, in some ways, a childlike faith is what we should be aspiring to. Like the intellectual, pseudo-intellectual stuff is like just dressing on the cake, to make some metaphors, because I can't think of what that is. But like basically, it's superficial. What we're talking about is definitely superficial. It's not faith. It's not what your wife has. It's not like because you brought her up. Like it's not what the average Christian doesn't need to know about René Girard. But for for me personally,
Yeah,
it grated me to the core.
I'll buy that.
And that is what I want to focus on. Because I think it gets to a place in I like personally, all my peers that I grew up with were Catholic. They're not Catholic anymore. Why? Because they don't accept, unless it's forcing. Like what I mean is like, I identify with people who want to go, use all the skeptical attitude towards something, and I know that leads to desolation. I know that leads to isolation, and
Yeah, I'm skeptical of skepticism.
and yeah, but that's a journey, right?
No, but that's the one thing.
If you're in it, you feel so proud of yourself.
Sure.
You feel like there's
a sense of ownership or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, no, I'm not saying there's not room for some skepticism, obviously. Yeah. But I think it's funny, though, to me, and it's just ironic that skepticism itself is the one thing you're not allowed to be skeptical of within that framework.
I understand.
Right. Right. No, I mean, but that's what happens at a university level and all of this is
right.
There's, I feel like a lot of universities invent a lot of jargon to make their departments justifiable. And I'm not saying that's all academic pursuits, but I'm just saying that's kind of the human condition, right? Is that if we have a job, we want to keep the job, so we make it more complicated than it needs to be, so that the initiates have to go through an entire process, and then once they speak our language, then we kind of got them trapped, but we're not allowed to be skeptical of the language that we're teaching in the first place. Right? I mean, so I think universities tend to have these pockets where it's like, oh, well, I'm just so above what your low level of knowledge can actually grapple with, when it's like, no, I think you're just justifying your job. Right? Like, I mean, so there's that piece of it as well. Like, why can't the skepticism be turned back on the so-called skeptic who's sitting in their ivory tower with their nice, $80,000 or $100,000 a year gig with tenure and all of that?
Yeah, like I guess what I see is like that I feel I think like a lot of people are lost, like they're because certain questions aren't
allowed to be asked in a way, is what you're saying. I'm not trying to pounce on you. I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
What am I trying to say? Like,
because you're not satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, and most people aren't. Like, especially because of what Christianity demands of you. It demands everything. Like, it demands a change in your life and spirit and attention, what you actually look at in life.
No, that's fair. I would say that there is... It's kind of a two-way street, so it's hard to like sum up in one short sentence, obviously, on a podcast. But
we did launch this as an apologetics podcast, so go for it.
No, but I think it's kind of what I saw when I was a teacher for a while, which is that if the students would trust me to go down a road that I had already walked a short ways down, they would look back and see why the road made sense. Yeah. But
that gets me because it's a crisis of trust in our culture.
Yeah.
Our institutions, our authorities, they're not going to. Why should we trust the people who come before us just because they say it?
No, sure, and I think that's a fair question, and I ran into that with my students as well. But I would say, okay, as an experiment with me here, I'm teaching you math. I've studied this. I understand it. I think I can communicate it. If you'll walk with me these next 3 steps, that's all I'm asking, right? So it's more of a road to Emmaus sort of journey where it's like, okay, what's the thing that's bothering you? How do I find out what's getting under your skin so that I can get you to take these next few steps with me? Because once you do, you're going to look back and say, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, so it's that trust is the gap, I think, when you're talking about the issue between faith and reason. Not that they're really separate, but with the way that these things can come at each other. Yeah. Man, we're going deep.
Hilarious.
This is the funniest podcast.
No, what's great though is that yesterday was last week. Sorry,
that was yesterday for some of us.
Yeah, we recorded it yesterday.
But this is the story of my life. I always get into these conversations, or I used to. I'm trying to avoid it. Like, I'm trying to avoid being like that nagging skeptic that I always was.
You suck at avoiding it.
I know. because it's a trap. It's like a core trap of like it, but it goes back to the trust.
Yeah, can you be okay not being okay?
Yeah.
Well, and
no, it's more than that, because it's like, I don't want others to be okay if I'm not okay. That's what the core is. Yeah.
no, but see,
something
that's
there,
a great
yeah.
insight.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, because I think we at various times and in different ways, we're all
100%.
wrestling with some aspect of the faith.
And then maybe
In
it's even more than that,
comparison,
because it's like,
yep.
I don't care about the childlike faith. I want them to have that. I want people who aren't going to wrestle with on this level. Don't even call it a level, because it kind of assumes like
you're not-
superiority or something like
you're
that.
not saying it's better.
different. It's a
Yeah.
space. It's a sphere. Like, why is my personality more like this and my reasoning like pattern like this? It could just be pathology. It could just be like like an obsession.
Well, yeah, and that could be for all of us on any given thing, right?
Yeah. But we're obsessed with that group of people and reaching the group of people we think are most similar to us and trying to change them.
Yeah, so you're saying that there's kind of a group of sheep that are feeling lost.
Yeah.
And how do we engage
I
with
want to
them?
reach my peers.
Yeah.
I don't want people to leave the church.
Yeah.
Because I felt a bunch of because I've been in and out of the church in this like very, again, traumatic way. It's like a coping mechanism to make me feel normal in both spaces. Like, don't leave the church. There's reason here and there's beauty here. But but it's basically like some type of invitation back to where I found myself, which is a healthier place as a believer.
You sound like a filmmaker.
Yeah, well, see, and that is what I love about film, is that if you're doing it right, and it's not just like mere propaganda or something, like if you're doing film right, it lets everybody kind of wrestle through things on their own terms.
Yeah, you don't want answers when you're a filmmaker. Like, filmmaking is like it's like finding a medium that you insert your soul into, and then it grinds you up, and then you don't even know what's on the other end of it.
Yeah.
It's just a process of it's a spiritual process. It's
You
a
produce
giving over
something
to it,
that
yeah.
you think you know what it kind of means.
You have to go to a specific direction. That's intuition. That's
Yeah.
the muse. You're following the muse, and then
Yeah.
you get grounded up by the process.
Our
Yeah.
common bond with Anthony D'Ambrosio, I think, highlights that very well, because when he set out to make this Triumph of the Heart film,
Yeah.
I think that he had a view in mind of what this would be, and y'all had done that short,
Yeah.
proof of concept type deal before. I think what came out of the other end is a film about Anthony, and it's really wild because it is truly character development, and I think he's in all of them, but I think he's primarily in, what's his name? Why did I just blank at the guy's name?
Colby?
No,
The other,
it's
from the film.
I haven't seen the whole thing. So
There's the guy.
the one that opens the movie?
I don't know, it's been like 5 months since I've seen.
I
I
know,
forget
but
that.
let's just be clear. Sam doesn't want your money, but Colby, Triumph of the Heart, does want your money. You can get involved right now by reaching out to the Beatitudes, and we will figure it out.
Well, and I do just want to say it's interesting because when you pour your heart into whatever piece of art that you're creating, it makes me think of G.K. Chesterton. He said, like, this work turned into a slovenly autobiography.
Yeah.
Like, there's a piece of you that just goes in, whether you mean to or not, there's just a
Sure.
piece of you that goes into it.
And so this is why my documentary is a reaction to the first half of my life, because Girard has that mystical experience when he's reading novels. He's reading about the artistic process and what the artistic process does to the novelist to find truth.
How it transforms them
Yeah.
in the process of writing.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
he's saying like he was looking because he had not had any literary background, so he's put into this teaching position as a young 30-year-old, and he has to find something interesting to say. And he says, instead of like looking at what makes these separate and different and like masterpieces on their own, like on pillars, like what makes them similar? What is the structural similarity of all of them? Kind of like we were saying of like there must be some tract in which
Like
religions are all moving to. So he's looking what is the structure of great art, and what he finds is that at the highest level, these masters understand the nature of desire. So they put it right into the text. They say that they give their hero a model first to want, and then that hero ultimately ends in a tragedy by following that model. And so great literature is about the danger of great literature, meaning that great literature gives us the model to desire, or even films or something like that. So basically,
Don Quixote and the Knights Errant. And
exactly,
all that,
yeah. So what he's saying is that unless you go through this artistic conversion in looking at your own desire and admitting that you're following a model, then you can't actually tell the truth in a story. Because it's not true that we're isolated beings. We're socially dependent on each other.
Yeah.
And it can lead down into into hell, basically.
Everybody still with us? Wow, this is one of our deeper episodes. This is incredible.
You think? I'm so disappointed because I know that you're a man who likes to cry, and you've yet to even come close.
Okay, wait.
Punch me.
Hold on. I have a no. I'm not going to cause you physical.
This isn't physical.
Hit me.
No, so here's
Hit me.
I have something to your forcing argument question.
Are we talking about that again?
I was
Yeah.
actually about to press the show notes button.
No. Wait, no. Not the argument itself, but the idea that something needs to be forcing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We need better arguments.
Well, yeah,
St. Peter
but also
1:5.
it's I think you're looking at it as an algebraic equation, and I'm looking at it as a romance.
Well,
If I'm coming at something as a romance,
seduction.
I don't.
Another word for argument.
Yes and no. There's
Get a
overlap.
room, you two.
There's overlap in the Venn diagram, but that doesn't mean they're corresponding.
I know.
Okay. So, but what I would say to that is, if I'm approaching a romance, the last thing I want it to be is forcing.
I like that.
So,
All right,
Well,
ladies and gentlemen.
but you want the outcome, like the outcome being an unforced response,
sure,
Yeah.
but it's an invitation.
invitation, and yeah, exactly. And I think that's exactly right.
So is it consensual then?
That's what's at issue. That's what's at issue. Love or violence.
Goodness.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the bonus episode on Friday, and for the rest of you, we will.
See you in the Eucharist.
God bless you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to join us at our Undersides table, subscribe to the video version of the show on YouTube by typing @ that's the symbol @ so shift and 2 on your keyboard, @ the _ Beatitudes on YouTube. We'll see you there.